From the station that made country music famous, 650 AM WSM, this is a Coffee, Country, and Cody podcast. Hi, it's Charlie Matos, and welcome to our Coffee, Country, and Cody podcast. In this episode, it's Trace Adkins. He joined us on our studio hotline the morning of May the 19th, 2020. Trace would be performing in the upcoming National Memorial Day concert on public television.
Coffee, Country, and Cody on WSM.
And let's see if we can't find Trace Adkins on the other end of this telephone.
Hey, Bill.
Welcome home, buddy.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing better now that you're here. I feel more confident all of a sudden just hearing the sound of your voice.
That was easy.
Yeah. So, Joe, if I said, Joe Smith is here with me on Coffee, Country, and Cody, Charlie Matos. If I said this artist has played to over, this is according to a report from the USO that I'm looking at, 65,000 service members visited, more than 65,000, has performed in Bahrain, Iraq, Afghanistan, Kuwait, Japan, Okinawa, Germany, Texas, Georgia, most recently Italy and Spain. The answer would be?
Definitely Trace Adkins. I have this information firsthand. Trace, I spent the last year in Somalia with some of these type dudes, and they once they figured out I sang country music, they would be like, "Oh, I saw Trace Adkins once." I mean, and these guys that are the coolest, hardened battle guys, they just get like, "Yeah, well, I've been around Trace Adkins," so.
And Trace, you've often said on the stage of the Opry as you get ready for our National Memorial Day concert on PBS Sunday night at 7 o'clock, that you've never understood after you do what you've done for the USO and the service members, the adoration that country music stars receive. It's like, wait a minute, y'all got this all wrong. The people we need to be celebrating are America's military, and you do it better than anybody, buddy.
Well, that's very kind of you. I've said many times that when you come back from a USO tour, you always feel guilty because, at least I do, you always feel like they gave you more than you gave them. It's just, no matter what you do, it just doesn't seem like the scales are even, and it's always been that way. It's the most appreciative audience that you'll ever play for, and they just bend over backwards, try to make you feel welcome and as comfortable as you can be, in a combat zone or whatever. But it's always been a great experience, and I don't intend to stop doing it.
What's the most intense situation you've encountered in a combat zone?
Well, in Mosul, we were in Mosul one time, and a bomb went off just a few hundred yards or so from us, and that was kind of intense. And it's just been a couple of times like that where something tense happened, but it was very short lived, and everybody was okay, and so but there have been a couple of those times. Once in Afghanistan, and another one in southern Iraq. So it just a couple of times.
If life had taken a different turn for you early on, outside of music, would you have been a military man?
I almost went to the Marine Corps. I was set up to take the entrance exam and placement test, and I was just weighing between the Marine Corps and college football, and I ultimately decided to go play ball, and so who knows what would have happened, but that was something I was looking at when I graduated high school.
Were you already playing music before you played football at Tech? Were you sharing those two interests?
It was pretty much like it is now. It was just a hobby,
So what brought you to the National Memorial Day show on PBS? Is this your first year to do it, or are you a repeat performer on Sunday night at 7 o'clock?
No, I've done it a few times. I'm not real sure how many times. 3 or 4 probably, and it's always been just the most inspirational thing. I mean, it's just what a thrill to perform on the lawn in front of the Capitol building, and it's just such an awe-inspiring scene when you walk out on stage and there's the Capitol right in your face, and and then the huge crowds. Of course, it's not going to be that way this year, but it's still fun. We taped our portion of the show already, and again, it was still inspirational because I was on top of a building with the Capitol right behind me, so I still enjoy doing it. But I've been involved in it for a few years.
In fact, when we wrap up, Trace, we'll go back a few years and feature your performance live, I think from 2016 or 17 of Arlington during that same show. Yeah,
that song has always seemed like it's the Memorial Day song. It's perfect.
Mm-hmm. Well, whose song is that, Trace, and how did they get it to you?
Jaden Spillman and oh goodness, gosh, I can't believe
Dave Turnbull.
Dave Turnbull.
Yeah.
Gosh, I couldn't remember his name right off it. Yeah, Dave Turnbull wrote that song after he had test driven a car with his mother, and the salesman that had related pretty much that story to him because his mother had come in visiting from Arlington. She lived in Arlington, and Dave had written a couple of big hits and wanted to buy her a new car, so they went out and test drove the car, and just having small talk, the salesman asked, where she was from, and she said she was from Arlington. He said, I have a son in Arlington, and then he just told the story, and Dave, as soon as he got back, he called Jeremy and said, oh man, we got to get together, we got to write this song. The story that this guy just told me. So, that's how it happened.
And you'll see it after the break here as we continue our conversation with Trace Adkins, who's a part of the PBS National Memorial Day show, Sunday night, 7 o'clock.
Trace, I have a selfish question. I loved Lincoln Lawyer. Are you doing any new movies soon? Or Lincoln Lawyer 2, maybe?
There's been talk about another Lincoln Lawyer, but it just never has happened. I mean, I've heard rumblings about it for years now, but they've never pulled the trigger on it. McConaughey, he stays pretty busy, so
It was great.
But I've got a couple of movies in the can. I don't know when they're going to come out, but I don't have anything on the books right now. Everything's shut down. I don't know when people are going to crank back up again. So.
What's been your food or snack weakness during quarantine?
Well, I've been snacking too much, I will admit, but I don't think I've had one solid go-to. I've drank barrels of coffee, I know that.
All right, before we finish, I promised I would bring this up. Do you remember when Little Richard, when you got your star in the Music City Walk of Fame, Little Richard did the same year? His recent passing brought to mind this memory for me of him standing at the end of the hallway at the Hilton Hotel going, oh, dear Lord Jesus, it's Tracy Adkins.
I do remember, I remember that, and just being around him. Oh, man, he was just a ball of energy, He was, and it's so kind, and it was it was a surreal experience. It really was.
That's Trace Adkins. We will end there. Thank you so much for your time, buddy. See you on the stage of the Grand Ole Opry before long, but we'll get to see you on PBS Sunday night at 7 o'clock for the National Memorial Day concert. Trace Adkins on Coffee, Country, and Cody. You want to find out more about Trace and what he's doing and keep up with him. Got a new tractor endorsement. You can see him. That's one of the things he's been doing during quarantine. I followed that on Twitter this morning. TraceAdkins.com.
I never thought that this is where I'd settle down. I thought I'd die an old man back in my hometown. They gave me this plot of land, me and some other men, for a job well done. There's a big white house, it's on a hill just up the road.
Thanks for listening to our Coffee, Country, and Cody podcast. Our program director at WSM Radio is J. Patrick Tittle. Our digital producer is Haley Hall. Marketing and promotions director is Amanda Cannon. And I'm Charlie Matos. If you like what you've heard, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. And leave us a review on iTunes. It really does help new people find the show.